and go ahead and share.
Just Google all things relevant.
On Facebook.
Okay.
All things relevant media, and then you can do
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the show. Welcome to ATR Media, where all things are relative. Julius Campbell, Julius Hall, and Mr. AB in his absence. The show is going to be phenomenal tonight because Chaplin Damion Welcome is on the show tonight, and Miss Toya is on the show tonight. And I just want to say thank you. Now, Julius Campbell, take it away.
Exactly. Good evening. What we're going to do tonight, as always, we want to provide a platform for returning citizens, an opportunity for us to change the narrative. Too often, people have been saying that we, returning citizens, have come home and returned back to prison. That is not the case. That is not even the norm. There are many of us who are successful, be it in occupation, employment, organization, family, whatever. There are many of us that are out there doing our thing, and we want to give them this platform to show the world that we may have started out wrong, but we can finish strong. And we are so grateful for Julius Hall, as Marie has stated, for all things relevant media, also for AB giving us that idea that incarceration can move to incorporation. So without further ado, we're going to first allow our guests to tell us, first of all, who they are or what organizations they may be in. And before you start your story, because I know both of you might just run on off in there, we're going to slow you down a little bit. Just simply tell us, A, who you are, and B, what is your relationship to incarceration. And as always, ladies first. So we'll start with you, Toya.
Hello, everyone. My name is Toya Mather. I am the Respect Institute of Georgia Oh my goodness, I just had a total blank. I work for the Respect Institute of Georgia as an outreach coordinator, and I will explain more about what that is. And so my relationship to incarceration is I have several family members who are returning citizens, but I also, in our training, we train those who are returning citizens in how to we define their stories and tell their stories in a chronological order.
Okay. Guess what? Now listen, Marie, you can tell she's a little bit nervous. So, but once we get the motors running, believe me, she's gonna get to us.
Yes.
So, Chap.
Hey, salutations and greetings. My name is Damion Welcome, and I am a chaplain and case manager at the Old Savannah City Mission, the only 5-star mission in Savannah, Georgia. My relationship to incarceration is quite personal. I was incarcerated and am a returning citizen. I did 6 years and 4 months in the federal penitentiary.
All right, all right. Now, there's something that we have in common here, and that is we all have a story.
Right.
And that's what we want tonight. We want you to share your story because we have multiple target groups of listeners. Those
Right.
that have been incarcerated, those that are incarcerated in Jessup, Georgia, a radio station to the prison. But we also have resources, those who give resources to returning citizens, and then relatives of returning citizens. So we like to say those 3 R's: returning citizens, relatives of returning citizens, and resources for returning citizens. So we're going to go ahead. Marie, do you want to go ahead and say something before Chap starts his story?
No, I'm ready for him to dialogue and take it away. Because I know Chap, it got a good story. Miss Toya, I hope you got your dictionary with him and Julius. It's going to be good tonight.
I'm ready. I'll Google it if I have to.
So,
Go ahead, Chap. May I ask you a question? When you enter the federal penitentiary, what was your mindset?
fear, because I had bought the misnomer that I was going to be in the belly of the beast. Yeah, I had totally bought the myth. I was at that time a civilian. I wasn't a casualty of the system, and I actually literally embraced it. So I went in with a fearful mindset.
So you went in with a fearful mindset. So when did you begin to, Miko, maybe this question is probably, when did your mindset begin to change?
2 important things happened. Along with my incarceration, my grandmother fell terminally ill. And so she died while I was in diagnostic in Atlanta on Easter morning. Wow. So that was stage 1 of the impetus for change. And then stage 2 was I got saved in prison. And between those 2 things, I began to settle into my situation, not to accept it, but to realize it wasn't life ending, just life changing.
I like that. I like that, Chap. Life changing. That's a good thing, because just as Miko was saying, just because we started off wrong, that doesn't mean it has to end there. And so I like your mindset and begin to change. That's what we need to realize when we're in a situation. The situation, we don't have to stay there. Things start with our mindset. So, Chap, I like that. Go ahead, Miko.
Well, I want Chap to start from the beginning. Condense it, because again, I know you know how to weave your story. And the reason why I want you to weave your story is because, remember, what we want to do here is encourage returning citizens, because so many returning citizens feel like they're the only one going through what they're going through. And so when they hear the story of another returning citizen who has made it, even though there were struggles, that tends to encourage, that tends to empower, and that tends to edify. So what we want you to do is, this is where you start from. Was your transition into society a difficult one or a smooth one? And if so, tell us how, and then move right on to where you are today.
It was relatively smooth, and I give that credit to the Lord Jesus Christ. And I had an excellent support system. It's actually unusual to come back to the place where you got incarcerated, especially if you were high profile. I was a police officer, and so in getting acclimated back into society, I didn't see a lot of the normal roadblocks that come with a federal indictment and having that on your track record. I had several good jobs, one of which was on Alfred Street at Rogerwood in Garden City as a supervisor. I had the privilege of getting with a company that paid for me to get my Class B license. And then I would go on to drive for 13 years in 3 companies. And I would make an average salary at that time with no college education and a federal strike against me on my record, so the world said, of between $48,000 and $55,000 a year. I would stay in that vein until God opened the door for full-time ministry. Now, I need to clarify something, and I'll do it for the sake of brevity quickly. Full-time ministry does not mean that you simply preach and don't work, because you can work and still be full-time, and I was.
That's right.
We founded 2 ministries. We became a 501c3, and then we decided that the church was too small, so we moved into the street. We had congregants, we had a building, we had the typical setup, but then Holy Spirit introduced me to the Old Savannah City Mission in 2004, fresh out, and it was a similar setting. It was paramilitary in structure, so I was used to it, and it was all male, and so these things were conducive to harmony for me at the time. So I started preaching there, and I volunteered there 16 years, and then the 17th year, God would work it out where they would hire me full-time.
That's correct. Go ahead, Chap.
They hired me full-time, and when they hired me full-time, the designation was supposed to be chaplain. But at that time, I had just left street sweeping for the city of Savannah, which was an excellent paying job with benefits and retirement. And like a lot of people, I wanted to hear God laugh, so I told him my plans. I was going to stay there, do 20 years, get fat and old there, and just have a pension. But that was not to be. So when the Old Savannah City Mission hired me, they gave me a $3 increase per hour when they hired me. So I went in the door higher than I had ever been on any of the jobs. But when I got in as chaplain, then they also gave me a case manager designation to ensure that I would have a 40-hour work week and not be part-time. Now, if I'm honest about it, I did not matriculate from the world of academia, and I'm not college educated, and my background is such that I was intimidated at first by that. But God is so good. And I have my brother, by the way, is a caseworker for the state, and he lives in Illinois. So I had somebody with expertise, but I was determined to let me and God do it. So I never asked him one question, and the Lord began to show me how to do things. The guy who had been the program director there even was going to help me. But sometimes when God's putting a template together, he doesn't want other people's thumbprint on you. So he began to show me how he wanted the job done, how to build case profile, how to build a network with the Federal Halfway House. Miss Wheeler is currently the director there. I have a relationship. I've preached there. I've done Easter service there. So it was already in place. With the chaplain at Coastal Correctional Facility, I reached out to him. With Brother Julius and the OAA, with Sister Marie. So God began to show me how to make the job work and how to have that duality of capacity exist in harmony.
Okay. All right. So now we're going to pause right there because I'm going to pepper you with some questions, and I know Marie is as well. But now I want to transition, and I want Toya. You start. Tell us, Toya, your story up until where you are today.
So my story is, so should I just share the resource that I am? Like what is it that I do? Okay. So what I do is I work for the Respect Institute of Georgia, and what the Respect Institute is it is a 3.5 day to 3.5 day in person, which we're not doing that anymore, but 4.5 day online training that that empowers participants to acknowledge, honor, and value their lived experience, and that can be any lived experience: incarceration, substance use, mental health challenges, and we support the participants in developing the skills necessary to transform their lived experience into a chronological, educational, inspirational 10-minute or less Chaplin presentation so that they can share their stories in diverse venues such as management meetings, board meetings, employee orientations. We've gone into the Department of Correction. We go into the court systems in front of legislators. And so the Respect Institute was founded by mental health advocate Joel Slack 9 years ago. And to this date, we have graduated over 1,600 graduates, myself included, and we have shared our stories to over 200,000 Georgia citizens.
Wow.
And so that is my resource that I.
So Toya, where are you? What city are you in?
Atlanta.
You're in Atlanta.
Mhm.
Okay.
What are your target groups? When you first started, your target group for storytelling was who?
Mental health. Those because Mr. Slack, who started the organization, he had a mental health break whenever he was in college, and he spent many years in mental health hospitals, and he saw that the people there were getting their stories told by others, and so he was like, I would love to hear their story. So that's when he restarted the Respect Institute. So it was just mainly mental health, people who had mental health challenges. But then it has just ballooned into where now we're getting so many calls to bring returning citizens to share their stories. And so that is one reason why I'm so grateful that you have invited us here, because we do not have a lot of returning citizens who are coming into the Respect Institute. But that is something that is dear to my heart. Like I said, I have several family members. My grandmother was a returning citizen, and she passed away 4 years ago. But she was also had substance use challenges, but she passed away at 45 years clean. So.
Do you find it now? You say you started out with mental health or substance abuse, but
Yes.
it's not ironic that the prison system right now is filled with
Yes.
those that are mentally
Yes.
health challenged and also substance abuse?
Yes.
As true, you agree?
Yes, because the returning citizens that we do have as our graduates, all of their stories, every last one of them is started out with some sort of trauma, which led to mental health challenges, which led to substance use challenges.
So why do you have only a few? Is it because they don't feel that their story is valuable or important enough, or why do you think that you have so few returning citizens willing and ready to share their stories?
The ones who have gone through, when I asked them what took you, like what took you so long, or why was it so hard for you, and a lot of them said that they just did not feel it was the stigma. It mainly the stigma, and they did not feel that anyone wanted to hear from them. But I remember there was a gentleman who, when we took our first trip into the Daily Reporting Center in Atlanta, and he shared his story there, and the gentlemen who were incarcerated there, just the feedback that they gave him, and the warm welcome, and just the appreciation that they showed, he was on fire after that. And then he started spreading the word, and then we were able to get more, just from word of mouth, more people that he knew, more returning citizens to come and be interested in our training. But now we have, like I said, we have so many so many requests, but not enough stories.
Now you told me, and this is why we got Chaplin Welcome on. You said that one thing that y'all like to do is help people to articulate, help
Yeah,
people learn how to tell
yeah,
their stories.
yeah.
And one of the reasons why I think that is so important, because in honesty, as we talked about, Marie, I believe it was 2 shows ago, many returning citizens are not taking advantage of educational opportunities.
Hmm.
Right.
Therefore, they don't know how to talk or share their story.
True.
However, when you have a Chaplain Damion Welcome who is articulate, that is one of the reasons why we felt it important to have him to share his story, because as you
Mhm.
hear, he is very fluent in his verbiage.
Very, very.
And I love the way he speaks. And so that's where you come in, Chap. I want you to help us to, when you were in, as well as you're out now, did you do things while you were there to help prepare you for the man that you will be today?
Mhm.
I had a leg up that a lot of offenders don't have. I don't even need the demographic to tell me that 18 to 36 is probably the largest group for Black males. And I came in after already having had a career. I had been a correctional officer, I had been a police officer. So I knew how to dress for an interview. I knew how to use semicolons and commas. Uh, I was raised by educators. My mother taught at Haven Elementary and Johnson High School. My dad taught at Savannah State. So I kind of got in the system backwards. Most people go in children and hope to come out men. But in terms of that, now spiritually, I still had a lot of growing to do. But in terms of intellectual advancement, I had gone in already ahead of a lot of my constituents that I would encounter in there. And then the system changed, as you well know, state and fed, to where educational degrees were not available anymore like they used to be, because they felt like the pariahs of society weren't worthy to get them when their own children who hadn't committed any crimes were not struggling.
Mhm.
So I kind of had a leg up. I was already somewhat cultivated and cultured when I went in.
Mhm.
So as you've returned home and in the position that you're in right now, what do you see? Because you are at the Savannah Old City Mission and you're working with a specific target group. I want you to share basically what the target group is. But one thing that I've learned is that returning citizens are becoming the fastest growing homeless population because of the things that's taking place as it relates to not being able to get a house, not being able to get
Right.
proper resources, not being able to get adequate employment. So,
Mhm.
what are you seeing in the field that you're in now as a chaplain?
Young people, and it's quite concerning to me. My oldest child is 34. My youngest is 24. Uh, the people below the millennial group are the ones that we see suffering from the most dysfunction and displacement. And then the mental illness component, definitely, I see quite a bit of that. A lot of the rate of literacy and the ability to articulate it is due to some degree of lack of intellect, but it also has to do with not using a skill set. They don't utilize it, and I'm telling my age, but I'm 51, like we do. Their interactions, their interpersonal communications are reduced to tweets and texts. And so that hurts a lot of them coming back in, because if you don't constantly use anything, you can't go from proficient to professional.
Right.
Right.
So
Mhm.
even the best speakers need practice,
Mhm.
and they don't. So that's the target group I see the most of. African American males are probably 85 to 89% of what we get in the Old Savannah City Mission. Um, and then there's a lack of work ethic. I know that's disturbing. Nobody wants to hear that. But when I came out of my incarceration, my ideology was, okay, I've rested long enough. It's time to get to work.
Work.
And I don't see that in this demographic that I'm encountering now. You can give them an offer for a job and the information, call the next day, and we're finding out they're not going. They're not going. Now, to the root of the problem, the beloved sister covered it well. It has a lot to do with things that they have been involved and engaged in that have not been self-esteem building, that have not given them the confidence to walk in what they are and who they are. But even with that being said, change has to be a choice.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
Yes.
Miss Toy, you know, the program that you have, I'm going to say me, myself, I have never heard of until Julius mentioned it to me. Me, myself, I did 18 months in prison. And so I don't mind telling my story because I know that my story will help someone else.
Yeah.
You know, so I would love to talk to you further about your program and what you have going on. I think that is so good. A lot of returning citizens would love to be heard and would love for their story to be told. You know, my good friend of mine, Cece, she has an awesome story, you know, and so I think that's very good that, like Julia said, a lot of us think that nobody wants to hear us. Because a lot of society looks at people that are or has been in prison as a nobody.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's very good.
And now the fact that we are getting requests for only returning citizens, like, you know, we're like the requests that are coming in. I have one that came in today, and they're like, we are looking for a returning citizen, and to share their story, and it will be in front of some judges, and they want someone to come in and, you know, talk about their experience.
I'll tell them. I will get right in front of the judges and let them know. And I will do it nice too, Chad. I'm gonna do it.
Well, help us. What we need, Toya, is give us step by steps on the formatting of, number one, what are the benefits of sharing your story? Because I know you told me at one time there is, I think, stipends that comes along with it. But also tell us what the format is. They contact you, and then there is a season or a time period of training. So give us the first contacting you information.
Okay. Right. So first you would contact me, and then there's a training coordinator, and I would pass the information on to her. She is the one who puts the trainings together and gets our wait list. We had a wait list of over 200 people before the pandemic, but since the pandemic, we've had 17 online trainings, and we have knocked the waiting list out, which is awesome. So you would contact me, I would give you over to our training coordinator, and then she would set you up for a training time until we have 2 trainings a month. And the trainings last for 4.5 days. We start on Monday, and then we go until Friday, which is our graduation ceremony.
Okay.
And then after that, that's where my job comes in as an outreach coordinator. And we are, whatever requests we get coming in, then I call upon our graduates to go to see if they want to go out and share, and then they go out and share their stories. And what makes it different from some training programs is that we do this in a chronological order. And we start from your earliest childhood memories to go to your teenage years, then to your early adult years, and then to whatever traumas or whatever happened in that time, your mental health challenges, substance use challenges. And then we go into when you decided to get help. And then what is it that you're doing now to stay in your recovery and stay well? And then we go into pieces of advice.
You're trying to, the challenge, the program, you're saying that you go through like at adolescence, right? When I was a child, then you go through my teenagers, you're trying to find out the problem, right?
The trauma, which is, there's usually some type of trauma. And this is, so you're going to come in, the participants are going to come in that first day, and the first day is just informative. We just tell you about the Respect Institute and what to expect. That second day, you have homework, and that homework is for you to go home, and you are just going to write from your earliest memory, you're just going to write your story.
Mm-hmm.
The next day, you're going to come in and you're going to tell that story.
Okay.
Sometimes we have people who they share their story in 5 minutes, and some they talk for 20, because it really depends. Like for me, when I went through the training, I was 50 years old when I went through the training, and that was 3 years ago. So, so, and I was thinking to myself, there is no way that I can tell 50 years of my life in 10 minutes. But now my story is 8 minutes because now that I was able to write it out, tell it, go through that chronological timeline, and then you're also in that training with up to 6 other participants. So you're going to get feedback. So when you share your story, they're going to give you feedback and
Okay.
the things that you did, like, oh, that was great, or maybe that was that language. Maybe the language is a little harsh, or maybe tell us more. So you're going to write that feedback down, and then you're going to go home the next day and
Mm-hmm.
you're going to rewrite using that feedback. So each day you're
Okay.
refining your story until on that Thursday, you're going to come in with, it's not a finished product because we know that we're constantly changing, but it's a finished
Right.
product for that time, for this time.
Okay.
And so you're going to share that story to the group, and then on Friday, you're going to share it in front of an audience at at their graduation.
Okay.
And
I like that.
what are the rewards afterwards? Are there
So
doors opening?
yes, so I have gone to support different graduates who I've seen. They've gone in and they've shared about how they were not able to find a job. They were homeless at the time. I've seen people offer jobs. I've seen resources become available. Um, and the main reward is the reward that the participants themselves feel when they felt that their story had no meaning. I know there were things for me that I swore I would take to my grave in my story. No one needs to hear that. It's not going to help anybody. But I've shared my story and I've had people slip me notes, send me emails, and say, thank you for saying that. Because I know that, I went through the same thing and you were able to overcome it and look where you are now and heal from it. So I think that's the biggest reward. But also when
Mhm.
participants go out to share their story, we do offer a $50 stipend
Okay,
because
that's the money. That's what I'm talking about.
like my 11-year-old says, show me the money. So we offer a $50 stipend, and this is not like payment, but it's just a thank you because we
Right.
know how hard it is to get out in front of people that you do not know, even online, because all of our speaking engagements, for the most part, are done online. But we've had some large audiences, up to 500 people
Wow.
online. So there is a $50 stipend because we are funded by the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities. And so we are able to give that stipend to our graduates when they go out and share their story.
There we go. So now here is where we're at the hour where we transition because we
Right.
have audience or an audience that we want to
To
encourage. Remember,
reach.
that is
Mhm.
the main focus of what we're doing. Although the show is called Incarceration to Incorporation, it is an opportunity to build the morale, to motivate our brothers and sisters who have either been incarcerated 20 years ago or 20 days ago. So
Mm.
this is where you speak to the heart of those that are listening. Chap, you first. Why is your story so important? Why is sharing our story with others so important, especially in this day and time when the criminal justice system is what it is? And I really don't want to go too much into the political arena, but Chap, I love the way you give those stats to help us to understand the mindset of the world or the culture that we live in right now. So why is our story so important to be sharing at this moment?
Because the four people on this forum represent one of the largest demographics for incarceration, Black people.
Hmm.
And in order for you to be, you have to see.
Mm.
You're going to mirror success, you have to first see it.
Hmm.
So we are, in the scope of the umbrella, proof that it can happen.
Hmm.
And so It's a selfish tendency to believe that your testimony is just for you. It's not for you, it's through you.
Exactly. I
It's through
like
you.
that.
Because there's someone somewhere
Yeah.
who has yet to see victory that looks like me.
Mm-hmm.
So today they get that. 50-year-olds and older, women, uh, and so we're already touching demographics that don't normally get explored among the marginalized. And that's why it's important and imperative for this information, conversation, and revelation, because someone needs to see victory in order not to be a victim.
Mm.
Oh, you heard that? Now you got to break that down. Information, conversation, and revelation. If you will, chap, break that down a little bit for our audience.
The way
Yes.
that we're disseminating it now is probably one of the largest mediums in the world currently. And if we're honest about it, the pandemic did us a favor
Mm-hmm.
because it brought a lot of us into the IT age when we were afraid otherwise to use it as regular as we did a telephone. But now you're able to reach a bigger demographic. So the dispensation is, or the era is different. And that being the case, you need different tools to succeed. So this is a better medium for many more people. And once, even if somebody had to get it and put it on form and then leave the room, now they're good. And the conversation gives them the revelation. Hopefully, we're waking a lot of sleeping giants.
Mm.
There are a lot of people who were
Yeah.
dealing with fear, doubt, and disbelief that it now has been dissolved by the dialogue that they've seen just on this four-way. And then from there, that should prompt them to try things they hadn't. So getting the GED, going to school for the degree, trying for the job, even if you're not necessarily qualified. I had no, I mean, I had been a pastor and an evangelist, but I had no chaplain experience to speak of, and definitely no case manager background. But
Mm-hmm.
when you come back, the biggest thing you have to regain is your sense of self. Because for the entire journey, you've been dealing with the depreciation or devaluing of your humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to step back into a world in a state of self-deprecation. You don't like yourself in a lot of cases because you have bought the hype. You've been
Right.
called a number instead of a name. You've
Yes.
been herded like cattle, and you've been made to eat at the same time, lay down at the same time, defecate, urinate at the same time. So there's a deprogramming that needs to happen, and it happens first by dialogue and then by action. So this is great.
Chap, you don't mind say something? I like when you said how the way they do you like cattles. I used to say when they used to call for count time, I said we like sheep for the slaughter because they
Mm.
count you so much. But what I like about your story, Chap, is that God is so amazing because he even put you in a situation where he know he will have you.
I agree with that. And let me say this: trauma is a prelude to triumph.
Mm.
There's always labor before birth.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nothing beautiful
Yeah.
happens if nothing tragic occurs.
You
Mm-hmm.
better talk
Yeah.
about it,
Throughout
Chap.
history, whether we believe the Bible or just history, whether we talking about Jesus Christ or Nelson Mandela, there's always the trauma as an impetus for labor to push out whatever the potential of that person was into the ethos.
Yes.
So many of us have not learned to embrace our trauma rather
Right.
than despise it.
That's it.
And what
I
I
like
want to
that.
ask, let me ask you, Tori, because Chaplin was speaking from the returning citizens' perspective
Mm-hmm.
and audience, but I want you, because you represent community.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a large number in the community that do not want to receive or accept returning citizens that are starting over and are being successful. Number one,
Mm-hmm.
what made you see the beauty in the story? And then number two, how can we change the mindset of community?
Okay. So what helped me to see the beauty in the story is because, like I mentioned, my grandmother was a returning citizen. She was incarcerated for murder when I was younger. And then I have nephews and cousins who are returning citizens. And so for me, I would hear their stories, but I wouldn't really hear their stories. And I was kind of stuck in that stigma of, what the family would say, well, he just did this, or he or she's just a that. But when I really sat down and started to listen to them, um, I started to see them.
Hmm.
And and my mindset changed. And I also realized that because of my former drug use, that I could have been there too. And so who am I to judge? But and so whenever I came into this work, um, at first I think that some of the people on my team did not see the beauty in the story. And but I just challenged them to do so. And so now um, it's just so important. And what I'm so excited about now is that all the requests that we're getting, because there are those in the community, like the DOC, like drug court and mental health courts and legislators who want to hear. They really want to hear, and so I'm excited about that. And I forgot the last part because I was excited about.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what it is, but let me. Katrina Chisholm, she's on, and she says, "I like this. This encourages her." Tisha Fulton is watching, and she says that this is good. And we have others that are listening in. And I was asking you, how do we speak to the community to help them to see the beauty in the stories of
Mhm.
our triumphs?
Whew. So I think mainly by getting the stories out there first. Um, I know that when we first talked to the DOC about bringing in stories, it was like, we don't want to hear it. But when we did, it after that, it was like a snowball effect. We were getting request after request after request, and like I said, now we have so many requests and not enough stories. And but what I think it is still the returning citizens who and like listening to you, Chaplain, when you were saying like the mindset, I think that being thought of as a number or a sheep, which you said, Marie, and all that stigma that returning citizens put upon themselves, that they don't think that their stories are valuable. But I'm here to tell you they are. They are. They're very
Awesome,
valuable,
awesome.
and we need to hear them. And so yeah.
Well, what I want you to do, and Marie, you join in as well, is because we are getting ready to specifically speak our hearts to a group of people. So I know that Toya, you're saying right now in your head, hold up, give me some time. Okay, you're gonna have a little time to get your thoughts together. Chap don't need no time. He can go off the cuff. But what I want you to do, we have those that are in prison right now that are listening, that are wondering, will I ever get that opportunity?
Mm,
What should I be doing while I'm waiting on that opportunity? Chap, you heard that voice. Then, Toya, there are those that are out here saying that, you messed up. You don't deserve that opportunity to,
mm,
to start over again. How do you break through to them? And of course, I want to interject while you're thinking about that. When I was incarcerated, and many of you heard my story, I was incarcerated for 26 years. I always felt in my heart there was hope. I was coming home. I did not know when, I did
mhm,
not know how long, but I knew that I needed to be ready. Nehemiah, I'm a man of faith. So Nehemiah was the stirring motivator, if you will, because when Nehemiah had an opportunity to go before the king, he was ready. He didn't wait. He didn't say, hold on, let me pray. He was preparing himself. I like to coin the phrase progressive preparation. So while I was incarcerated, I was preparing myself to be articulate. I was preparing myself to be quick off the cuff. I was preparing myself to know how to sell myself. And so when that opportunity presented itself, I was ready. And so I am grateful for where I am now. Julius and AB and giving Marie and I an opportunity to give others a platform. I was ready. I was ready to be able to speak, ready to be able to draw out, if you will, that word, that story from those that may be reluctant to share it. I was ready to be able to encourage someone with my story to let them know you can make it. As a matter of fact, God has blessed me now. I am a life navigator, and that is not a coincidence. That is the actual title that I am in my job, life navigator. So I'm able with my lived experience to share with others. So why did I say that? Because I want you, brothers and sisters, those of you who have made it home and who are saying, I am struggling. Those of you that are on the inside that are saying, will I ever get that choice? I just want you to know there is hope. For a life without hope will make anybody do anything.
Yeah.
Repeat, a life without hope will make anybody do anything. But when you have hope, the sky's the limit. So, Chap, I see you, Sherry Cooper. She says, Sherry Cooper Burns is watching. Chap, I want you right now, speak to that person that's in the prison that feels like they're not going to get that opportunity. And then also speak to that one who just came home or who has been home and they're struggling. Will I be able to make it?
My response is actually twofold. The first thing I want to tell you is we're all on probation. Even if you come home and they say you're not on quote unquote paper, society is watching to see if we successfully acclimate. And even if you're not articulate and even if you're not college material, you can become a productive member of society.
Yeah.
The second thing I want to say is sometimes incarceration is needed for motivation. There are some people who couldn't get it together on the outside. And so now that they're on the inside, they've been slowed down long enough to appreciate the process. And there are things they never would have endeavored to do that now they're embarking upon. So it's an opportunity to bring beauty from ashes is what it is. And at the end of the day, you owe it to yourself. Never mind everybody else. You owe it to yourself to come out better than you went in, because we already realized that our mortality calls to eternity. We're coming out older. So if we're coming out older, it behooves us to come out smarter. We've got to have used the time properly to make the time count so that we can do more with less. And that should be the mindset if you're working from the inside out. The days will take care of themselves, but the discipline is your responsibility.
Toya?
Yes. The same question.
Yes, but I want you to speak to those that to help relatives or resources. Those are the two groups, relatives of returning citizens and those who provide resources for returning citizens. Help them to see the importance of their role in encouraging.
Okay. So I'll speak to the relatives of returning citizens. I would say to you that to put aside your own stigmas, and it's going to be an inside job for you as well, and to realize that the person who is coming home, they have paid their debt to society. And I know sometimes as family members we still feel like although they pay their debt to society, then they have to also pay a debt to us. But for me, they should really be able to come home to those that love and support them, and really sit down and hear them. That is the most important thing, to sit down, hear them, and see them. And and that's what I did. I think that made the difference in the relationship with my grandmother. I know. And as far as resources goes, I just kind of I heard what you said about what can the person who is inside do right now to kind of prepare themselves. And I wrote down that right now, um, and even the ones who are returning citizens, sit down with yourself and start writing out your own story. Just start writing it out because I think oftentimes they've stigmatized themselves. So start writing down your story. Sit with yourself, and but truly know that your experience is going to help someone else. You may not see it right now, but I've seen it. It's going to help. It's going to help to elevate someone and help to free someone. Um, so there is truly freedom in your stories.
Okay. Marie, you want to share?
Me, I don't articulate like Julius Campbell. I call him Miko. But being a mother, I can say this. Being a single mother, because there's a lot of women that's in prison that are single mothers, and I have 11 children, and so it was hard for me when I needed things and wanted my children to have things. So I did things for them to get it. I wrote checks and I did credit card fraud. No, does it make it right? No, it does not make it right. But at that moment when your babies are looking at you and you have to feed them, you don't care what's right or wrong, you know? So I think that I like when you say write it down. Write it down. And you know what's the biggest thing? Forgiving yourself. Because people can be, them forgave me, but it's still me holding on to what I done and thinking that, oh, I'm guilty. And they see my past and they know what I done. And so it's me forgiving me. Yeah. So I would say to the women and men that are in prison, forgive yourself. Mm-hmm. Forgive yourself. And then and all other things will fall into place, you know. Now, would I write a check now or do a credit card fraud? No, Lord. Amen. I used to call the walkway that Miss Toya that we used to walk up and down going to church. I used to call it Martin Luther King. And you have to give yourself a sense of something in prison. Yeah. You know, so what I did was a woman, I love her, Miss Jordan. She was in prison. She said, I never seen a person with a schedule like yours. I went to PI, which was my detail. I come back and then I go to school. Then after school, I go to church. And that was my routine every day, because it's not that I don't need God now, but I feel like when you in prison, and I feel like prison is a world inside of a world, you need God. You need God so much. I'm telling you, need something to hold. He was my hold on. He kept my mind, you know? So yeah. Just forgive yourself. That's the biggest. Yeah. That's the biggest thing with me now, Toya, is forgiving me.
Yes, that just spoke to me. I got all emotional because I thought about that. That was the biggest thing for me to be able to articulate my story, was to forgive myself because of all of my 20 plus years of drug addiction. Oh my goodness, I am not crying on a podcast.
Okay. That's okay. That's okay.
But to be able to forgive myself and to know that I am better. You know, I remember this lady told me, "Oh, baby, it's gonna get greater later. It's gonna get greater later." And I was like, "No, I need to get greater now." But it did. It does get greater later. So thank you for sharing that.
Let me read. One of our listeners said, this is Mr. Frazier. He says, this great and sunny show is an answer to many of our prayers. As you use your critical mind, good and honest heart to watch this timely show, seek out to find what you can do to speed up answers to our prayers when it comes to our brothers and sisters who are incarcerated and on their pathway home. That is from Minister James Lee Frazier. And so Tisha Fulton says, crying comes with healing. So I am glad that you were able to share that. What I need for you to do right now, and Marie, you can assist them, is Toya, you can type right there in that chat room your information on how people can get in contact with you so that they can share their stories. Also, myself and Marie, will also get your information, and we will put it on the ATR website as well. And also you too, Chap, if you want, because I know you also have an opportunity to help people. So how do people get in contact with you, especially when they need some a place to stay or counsel? And we're getting ready. We have about 4 minutes left. So Toya, I want you to give your final farewell. That's redundant, I know, Chap, but give your final farewell to those that are listening.
Toya went off. Where Toya at, Miko?
Oh, she might have mixed. Oh, yeah, I think she might have knocked herself out. Okay.
Hey, I went to the chat and I couldn't type nothing in, but I did want to give my Old Savannah City Mission information though. So if one of y'all will put it in for me, I appreciate it.
Okay, Maria's going to take care for you right now. All right, there she go. All right.
Technical difficulties.
Don't worry about it. Go ahead. This is your time to give your final farewell.
First, I would like to thank you, Julius, for inviting me, and you, Marie, and Chaplin. I thank you all for just having me and being here. And I would just like to speak to those that are listening that that you may not think that the things you've been through have value, but it truly does. And I love what you said, Chaplin, about the trauma brings about triumph, and it truly, truly does. And there are those out there who are just barely holding on, those out there who can relate to you, those out there who think that who've gone through the same things you've gone through, and are thinking like you that that it doesn't matter. But if you have the courage to share your story, you can truly help someone. You can be that hand up to someone. So,
okay, Chap.
Heal the child and you'll save the man.
I like that.
I've been writing down quotes from you all night.
Heal the child and you'll save the man. I stole it off Facebook, but it was so powerful. No, I didn't steal that one, but this one I did. That one the Holy Spirit gave me, but this one, I read a quote on Facebook that said, they tried to bury us, but they didn't know we were seed.
Yes, I
promise you, if you're behind bars today, if you're incarcerated in the prison of your mind, body, or spirit, if you're addicted or afflicted, they have buried you, but they didn't know you were seed.
Yes.
They didn't know you were seed. And every sapling must turn into an oak. You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay.
All right, Marie.
I really enjoyed the show tonight, especially with Chaplin Damion on here. It's always a pleasure to hear him speak. And for you, Toya, to meet you. Thank you for sharing your story. It was really encouraging. And to the men and women that is in prison, I just ask you all to hold on. Hold on, because don't give up on hope. That's one thing. Hope is a powerful thing. Do not give up on hope. So that's all I have to say, Miko. Your turn.
So to all of you that are listening, again, we are grateful to you when you come on every Friday. Please, you can share this. Also, you can also go back on Facebook and YouTube. It has been recorded, and you can send it to others. Send it to those who just got out. Send it to those who've been out but have been struggling, and they need to hear a story of hope and motivation. But also, I want to thank you for listening, because remember, we may have all started out wrong, but we can finish strong. You know, Julius Hall always liked to say, a debt once paid is no longer a debt. So therefore, just remember, tell your story so that others will be built up, so that others will be encouraged, so that others will be educated, and so that others will be empowered. We love you. We thank you for sharing with us again. We'll see you again next Friday. and also continue to, pray for us. Also, we have OAA that Marie and also that Julius has spoken about, and Damion. What we do is we try to assist those of you who are looking for jobs, those of you who may need a word of encouragement, whatever we can do to assist you, just contact us. We will make sure you know how to get in contact with our guests. We love you. We'll see you again next Friday on Incarceration to Incorporation, or better known as Ain't to Ain't. Have a wonderful night.
Thank y'all. Love
All
you.
right, Chad.